Bill's New Frock by Anne Fine. When Bill Simpson woke up on Monday morning, he found he was a girl. His mum makes him put on a pretty pink dress and sends him off to school. It's not the start to the week that Bill was expecting, and there are plenty of surprises still to come. Chapter 1. A really awful start. When Bill Simpson woke up on Monday morning, he found he was a girl. He was still standing staring at himself in the mirror, quite baffled, when his mother swept in. "Why don't you wear this pretty pink dress?" she said. "I never wear dresses," Bill burst out. "I know," said his mother. "It's such a pity." And to add to his astonishment, before he could even begin to argue, she had dropped the dress over his head and zipped up the back. "I'll leave you to do up the shell buttons," she said. "They're a little bit fiddly, and I'm late for work." And she swept out, leaving him staring in dismay at the mirror. In it, a girl with red curly hair was wearing a pretty pink frock with fiddly shell buttons. And this person was staring back at him, equally in dismay. "This can't be true," Bill Simpson said to himself. This cannot be true." He stepped out of his bedroom just as his father was rushing past. He too was late, getting off for work. Mr. Simpson leaned over and planted a kiss on Bill's cheek. "Bye, Poppet," he said, ruffling Bill's curls. "You look very sweet today. It's not often we see you in a frock, is it?" He ran down the stairs and out of the house so quickly he didn't see Bill's scowl or hear that he muttered something savagely under his breath. Bella, the cat, didn't seem to notice any difference. She purred and rubbed her soft furry body around his ankles in exactly the same way that she did before. Bill found himself spooning up his cornflakes as usual. It was as if he couldn't help it. He left the house at the usual time too. He didn't seem to have any choice. Things, though odd, were just going on in their own way, as if in a dream. Or it could be a nightmare. For hanging around on the corner was the gang of boys from the other school. Bill recognised one of them, called Mean Malcolm. His purple studded jacket stood out. "I think I'll go the other way instead," Bill thought to himself. "I don't want to be tripped up in one of their nasty little scuffles like last week when all the scabs were kicked off my ankles." Then Bill heard the most piercing whistle. He looked around to see where the noise was coming from, and then realised that Mean Malcolm was whistling at him. Bill Simpson blushed so pink that all his freckles disappeared. He felt so foolish he forgot to turn off at the next corner to go the long way, and he ended up walking right past the gang. Mean Malcolm just sprawled against the railings, whistling at Bill as he went by wearing his pretty pink frock with shell buttons. Bill Simpson thought to himself, "I'd rather have the scabs kicked off my ankles." When he reached the main road, there was an elderly woman with curly grey hair already standing at the curb. To feel safe from the gang, Bill stood beside her. "Give me your hand, little girl," she said. "I'll see us safely across the road." "No, really," insisted Bill. "I'm fine, honestly. I cross here every day by myself." But the woman simply wouldn't listen. She just reached down and grabbed his wrist and hauled him across the road after her. On the far side, she looked down approvingly as she released him. "That's such a pretty frock," she said. "You mind you keep it nice and clean?" Rather than saying something disagreeable, Bill just ran off quickly. The head teacher was standing at the school gates holding his watch in the palm of his hand, waiting for the last few stragglers to arrive. "Get your skates on, Stephen Irvine," he yelled, "and move, Tom Warren." Another boy charged around the corner and cut in front of Bill. "Late, Andrew," the head teacher called out fiercely. "Late, late, late." Then it was Bill's turn to go past. "That's right," the head teacher called out encouragingly. "Hurry along, dear. We don't want to miss assembly, do we?" Bill walked up the path, the head teacher following behind, and went into school. Assembly always took place in the main hall. After the hymn, everybody was told to sit on the floor as usual. Desperately, Bill tried to tuck the pretty pink dress in tightly around his bare legs. Mrs. Collins leaned forward on her canvas chair. "Stop fidgeting with your frock, dear," she told him. "You'll get nasty grubby fingerprints all round the hem." Bill glowed all the way through the rest of assembly. At the end, everybody stood up as usual. "Now, I need 4 strong volunteers to carry a table across to the nursery," announced the head teacher. "Who wants to go?" Practically everybody in the hall raised their hand. Everybody liked to trip over the playground. In the nursery, they had music and water and sloshy paints and tricycles and bright plastic building blocks. And if you kept your head down and didn't talk too much or too loudly, it might be a good few minutes before anybody realised you were really from one of the other classes, and then they shooed you back. The school hall was a mass